Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Jack, Conrad, 45, week 14. We are getting into the compressed area right before these holiday fixtures. We got match week 12, match week 13, match week 14, all within an 8-day period, heading into the festive fixtures. So a lot of compression. Some of these sides, the depth is really going to be important. There's a lot of injuries with some of these clubs as well. So it'll be interesting to see what rotation looks like this weekend heading into some of those festive fixtures.
I mean, some coaches are talking about it. Ralph Hasenhüttl, first game we're talking about, he's mentioning himself. That's against Man City, but they're going to have to rotate because you can only biology. He's
pretty thin.
And voting down the 5-sub rule today. I think that's probably the right call. You can go back and forth all day. We can do an entire episode on 3 subs, 5 subs. They upgraded it to 9 on the bench. I think that's actually probably a good idea. Just have more options. And I think they're revising the head injury rule as well. If you have a concussion, it doesn't cost a sub.
Right.
Smart.
So that's long overdue.
Some small positives in terms of health for the players, but considering last year when the last time there was a midweek compared to the holidays was the 5th of December, and that's about 20 days before Boxing Day when things are really compressed, compared to this year where you've got it in right before a week before Christmas.
This is due to the slightly late start. They got to get this extra week in there when there was no Europe matches, but it's going to make it tough. So first up for us, as you mentioned, Southampton and Man City at the St. Mary's. So 4 points separate these sides. Southampton 3rd on 24, City 9th on 20. Southampton coming off the 1-1 draw against Arsenal probably wanted more out of that match given where Arsenal are right now. City, the draw as well against a West Brom side that was so excited about that win. They then fired their manager, Slaven Bilic, and brought in Big Sam.
Yeah, that was maybe it was the right call in terms of but the timing was weird. You would I believe they had drawn against Chelsea or much earlier in the year and drawn against Man City. Those are not easy results to get, but probably
not enough points.
Getting a relegation savior in, especially whenever you want to make sure you have as strong finances as possible. That's enough West Brom talk for today. This is going to be interesting.
Well, Guardiola was really complimentary of Hasenhüttl, but it's time for them to start picking up points, right?
Exactly.
They've got 2 straight draws. They sit 8 points off the top of the table. Aguero, questionable.
8 points off the top.
Southampton look like they're... Yeah.
And that's with the game in hand, so they could be at best 5 points behind. That's still a long way behind where they want to be at. And this is not going to be an easy match by any stretch. It's going to be really tough for them. But it's the kind of match where you have to win if you want to be a title contender. Simple as that. You have to beat the teams that are tough on the road. And they haven't been able to do that. They struggled against West Brom, and that was because they lack the directness at times because they didn't have Aguero. He's still question marks.
He's the talisman for that.
I think that their biggest need right now is a striker who can finish chances off because with Sterling, who's wasteful, Mahrez, who is inconsistent, great when he's at his level, and Jesus, who is good, not quite there yet, and then Aguero, who is incredibly injury prone. You have a lot of question marks about that attack. And again, Southampton, who can punish you if you don't score enough goals. Yeah. They've done a lot of those XG against the odds matches this season where they kind of just didn't deserve to win necessarily, but they scored more than their opponent because they were clinical in the final third, and they have good goalkeeping and good ability in the defensive end. So not an easy result for City, but I think the fact that it's just such a must-win, if they lose points, Selhurst part is never easy for Liverpool, especially with the Istanbul PTSD when they blew it in the title charge of 2014. But I think they're going to really need to get these points if they want to stay in the title race.
Well, when Guardiola says, I am not resting Kevin De Bruyne ahead of the festive fixtures, he has played every single minute of every single match.
For Guardiola's track record, I feel like when he says, I'm not resting De Bruyne, I feel like he's just going to be chilling at his home on the sofa watching the game with a glass of wine because he's resting him and he's just lying to everybody.
Could be. I don't know why he's not pulling a
fast one.
Bielsa. Just say, hey, here's my starting 11. Anyhow, next up for us, Everton and Arsenal. Aubameyang finally got a goal for Arsenal in the draw with Southampton, but that's about it. Gabriel suspended. Xhaka suspended. Winless in 6 straight Premier League matches, sitting 15th on 14 points with just 11 goals. We have hammered away at Arsenal a lot this season, but deservedly so. Everton, meanwhile, sitting 5th on 23, looking for 3 wins in a row, and they've been dealing without James Rodriguez, joined by Alain, Delph, Digne, list goes on. Ancelotti is getting the results, but not consistent with that fast start and then a little bit of a fade, and now 2 consecutive win. Depth isn't all that great with that many injuries, but he's making it work thus far.
And big reason that that's the case, is they figured out a defensive shape. Yeah, they've had 4 center backs at times, but they've figured out a way to not concede goals. If you don't concede goals against Chelsea and Leicester in about a 3 or 4 day period, that's an incredible week by all stretch of the imagination. And Arsenal are not as good attacking as them, so they'll have high expectations. And I think that Everton will be favorites because of league position, because of form. And I think there's a better team than Arsenal.
They have to take advantage of Arsenal.
And I think Ancelotti is also a better manager than
much more
Mikel
experienced,
Arteta.
for sure.
And this is at the same time. Arsenal fans are jokingly celebrating whenever the likes of West Brom and Burnley are dropping points because they're saying, "Oh, we're in a relegation battle now." They unironically are at a level that is so poor that it's almost like, what are you doing? I mean, you need to get results, and you need to figure out a way to scrape things together.
They're
the only positive for them right now is Bukayo Osaka, because he looked unbelievable talent. I mean,
that midweek run
when he had
for Aubameyang's goal,
that was phenomenal. And he posted a tweet afterwards of him like, "Arsenal fans deserve better." Comments just filled with rival fans saying, "Come join us," because they're like, well, they're gonna need the money pretty soon, and you are really good. So Arsenal, they just need to surround him with talent. Aubameyang, they need to get him back fit, firing, and in form. And Everton, if you maintain that defensive shape against an Arsenal side that are toothless in attack, all you have to do is break them down. And with the likes of Richarlison getting a bit of improvement in form, Dominic Calvert-Lewin being able to capitalize on any mistake, and Sigurdsson quietly, slightly just being decent, who knows?
And what's interesting, it has nothing to do with now, but in February, Ozil's agent coming out today saying not going anywhere, looking to finish out his contract, and Arsenal can bring him back after the January close.
January 1,
I think he can't start for them until February. It's got to be until after the window. I think that's when they can reset.
All I know is FM21. I can just add a guy back on January 1st. If it's like that,
I think it's because the window has to close.
You can.
And that's when you can reset your roster for the second half of the season.
We don't really know what we're talking. We don't really know what we're talking about. Clearly.
I read about that today. I know. Next up, Spurs and Leicester. So hard to tell, but is Grumpy Moo making his way back? Right, he was fuming after the loss at Anfield, claiming that the better team had lost, and then teeing off on Klopp again after he won FIFA Coach of the Year. And Klopp, to his defense, admits that his countryman Hansi Flick should have won because he won everything last year for Bayern. But Mourinho lashing out at others is a classic deflection tactic of his to try to just take heat away. But a lot of times that can seep into the club in the past, right, where he starts lashing out at his own players. But Rodgers, meanwhile, for Leicester, has coached under Mourinho, but he prefers to have the ball in possession. So this is a classic, two different styles here. We've talked a lot about Leicester and the penalties and all of that, but this could be tough against that disciplined Spurs side for Leicester.
On this paper, number 3, that's where I put Spurs. I'm very proud of that pick because they were first in the league for a long time. So I'm going to defend Mourinho a little bit. And also myself and my antics on Football Manager. Because, in all honesty, they're not talking about the missed chances by Bergwijn that much. They're not talking about Kane dropping a stinker at Anfield. They're talking about Mourinho. That's exactly what he wants you to do. He wants to pull all the attention away. Because remember when Pochettino was there? He was a nice guy. He was loved by the media. So a lot of times the players would fall under a lot of scrutiny. Mourinho wants to remove any variables for his players. He wants it to just be
focus on football.
It's a bit of an ego thing, but it's also just let's pull the attention away from anything that could distract them. And if the media is going in on a player for this or that, then that could be negative. And that's what he's great at. He's great at handling the media and making them love him because he gets them a lot of interactions, a lot of clicks.
Plenty of quotes.
And he's also just a phenomenal head coach. So I imagine that they'll want to have a bit of a bounce back. And Leicester are struggling in their own right. They haven't been able to score except for the spot. And that's a issue that they've had so far this season. So against the Spurs side, who are really good defensively against the defending champions, looked good enough for a draw and probably should have won at Anfield. A team that hasn't lost there in 65, 66 games, goes up every week.
Yeah, they deserved points there.
They deserved points there exactly. And so this is going to be one they want to win. And Mourinho may say, we're not title contenders yet. You are currently 3 points behind the current league leaders. This is the kind of match where if you can win it, they're a side who could pass you if they win. I feel like you have to, obviously they'll go all out for it, but this is almost a must win to kind of maintain the form and not lose a step, because if you lose a bit of mentality, lose a bit of form, head into this just run of fixtures, could go bad pretty quick for Spurs.
I'm curious what they do formation-wide if they do get Bale back in there, where they would play. I mean, Bergwijn hasn't converted, so I think he would be the one to probably come out, and if they put Bale back in there in the starting front three.
Mm-hmm.
But
and they have a lot of options. I think Bale is a guy who has barely played for them, and he has so much upward abilities, potential that exists there, hasn't been tapped into yet. Will be tapped into. I feel like people are saying that's a guarantee. It's not necessarily. He's been pretty poor for several years now. Inconsistency has been a big issue for him, and fitness as well. Trying to be in a side that is going to play quick, counterattacking, direct football. Is he ready for that?
Right. Can he move that quick?
Exactly.
I mean, he doesn't really have to. He's got to fill in the channels. You know, Kane's only going to create the spaces because they're just going to drag defenders with them.
I watched the Ray Tifo football video, which is a phenomenal YouTube channel for anything football related. Talk about the tactics they have for counterattacking and just how effective they are in terms of every player just runs north-south. They just run in the channels, and they just kind of spread each other out. All the goals that you see, it's just a case of a guy dribbling the ball, carrying it forward, and then sprays it out to a guy who was just literally running in a straight line. It's incredibly simplistic, makes it easy for the players, and with the talent they have,
the speed that they have, that's all you got to do.
And with Leicester dominating the ball potentially, look for a counterattacking display from Spurs.
Catch them when they're tired. Next up, probably to me, and I think to you, the most intriguing match of the weekend. You got two clubs that are playing in two different fashions, right? Both very, very inconsistent. Leeds coming off the 5 goals against Newcastle will look to continue that. The War of the Roses. This is the first Premier League match between these two clubs in 16 years, and these supporter bases do not like one another. No fans in Manchester.
I was 3 years old when that last happened. Long time ago.
These supporter bases do not like one another. No fans in stands. Manchester remains a bit of a hot zone. But somehow, despite all the hand-wringing in the United supporter base, Pogba falling out of the Champions League, what are they going to do in January? United find themselves 6th place on 23 points, 2 points off second. With the game in hand. So Ole likes what he's getting from Maguire and Lindelof, mostly because he's not making them run 100 miles an hour backwards towards their own goals.
Mm-hmm.
But and then Leeds, the 5 goals and the return to their prolific scoring. It's two inconsistent sides. So do both high-flying teams show up here, and do we end up with a 5-3, 5-4 barn burner?
I'm very interested in what Ole's approach is, because we've seen in the matches against sides of their same level, Chelsea, Spurs, what he tried to do against Spurs until things went very, very quickly south. Arsenal, Man City,
Leipzig,
where you try and pack it in and you try and make it so there's not too much for your defenders to think about behind them, because Maguire and Lindelof, they're the best you have. If we're being honest, they're not title-winning center backs, and I think I love Man United Twitter because it's just such a hurt place because of how much trauma they've had, and it's also just such they're in a title race if they can just get a good run of form. Now, inconsistency is a huge issue for them, and do they have enough talent to do that? Because their best player, arguably Paul Pogba, is he able to have those performances week in, week out to mount a title charge? Are your center backs good enough? Are your forwards clinical enough? Cavani, question marks for him. So I think, I don't know what Ole's going to do. I can't read his mind. Is he going to respect Leeds as a side that he's going to have to sit back like it would be Man City? But they're weak defensively. It's at home. They've been great away from home. At home, though, not too good. They've not been defending Old Trafford that well. He talks about how no fans there. It makes it so that way it's not as dominant an atmosphere, but then Jurgen Klopp says, well, I have maintained our unbeaten record at Anfield to about 67 games. So,
well, he's also had 2,000 fans there the last couple of matches.
I think Man United have a chance to make a statement, considering some teams ahead of them are slipping. Leicester, Spurs, Chelsea falling behind them, and Southampton are questionable if they lose to Man City this weekend. I mean, they have a prime position to pass them. You have everything in your locker to maybe not make a title charge. I don't think they have a chance to win the title.
Top 4.
But top 4 is 100% attainable. Top 3, top 2 is very, very attainable. I think they're still a ways off Liverpool. But this match, go out, try and win it. You're at home against bitter rivals on a decent run of form, and you want to prove a point. I hope Ole goes out there on the attack instead of trying to be afraid of losing his job. That's what I'll say.
It'll be an exciting match either way. I think there will be a fair share of goal scoring in this one. And last up for this week for us, Chelsea and West Ham. So Chelsea coming off 2 losses, Everton, Wolves, leaves them 7th on 22, struggling against the top half sides. We've said this 3-4 weeks in a row here now. While West Ham present them another opportunity to get that first quality top half win, Lampard, I think he should stick with Werner, even though he appears to be out of form, because he is going to need to rotate coming up into the festive fixtures. Moyes, meanwhile, has Michail Antonio on a new deal. When he's been healthy, he has been the real difference maker thus far for Hammers. Meanwhile, Declan Rice continues to show why he's the best holding midfielder in England right now. And Moyes hoping he can hold on to him because he is likely to be shopped come January.
Don't know if I agree with that Rice statement, but he's very good. He's been very
he
good.
And Soucek are fantastic.
They are both very good, and Chelsea are very interested in him as well because their midfield options are very interesting. I think what Chelsea need more than anything else is to get Kai Havertz out of the wing, get Timo Werner out of the wing. You have no fit wingers because you don't have a lot of depth there. Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech are question marks that are going to be fit for Monday.
Hudson-Odoi sounds like he's going to be in good shape this week.
Potentially, and Pulisic is just we love Pulisic. We think, and they've been incredibly reliant on him, but he's been made of glass. So I think they need to get some wingers, try and improve that area. And West Ham, I don't know what to expect with them. Michail Antonio, new deal. He's been incredible for them on form as a forward, and it's just a case of I really don't know what to expect from them. They're only separated by about a point, but in terms of goal scoring, Chelsea are one of the best in the league, and West Ham are pretty good on both ends of the field. So,
I mean, their difference is in the midfield.
I think this is one of the biggest tests for Frank Lampard because you've had 2 tough losses on the bounce against Everton. And against Wolves on Tuesday. So
that 95th minute.
And they do have actually quite a bit of time. I just realized that they have Tuesday to Monday. It's nearly a week, more than almost anybody else is going to have because there's only 2 games on that Tuesday. So this is, for Chelsea, you got to end this skid because their upcoming schedule is really, really tough. It includes matches against Arsenal, against Aston Villa. I believe they play Man City.
Is Arsenal really a tough match anymore? Anyhow,
it's tough to say. You have West Ham, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Man City. Those 4 games: West Ham, Arsenal, Villa, Man City. Oh, I said like 4 times now. Yeah. But that's a tough run of form because they've, not to say that they've played bad teams, but they haven't beaten a top 10 team yet, and that's because they played a lot of the lower level teams in the league. So if you don't get 3 points here, you go into that match against Arsenal and you're saying, I don't know, 3 losses on the bounce, no win in 3 in the Premier League. Feel a little suspicious. So for Chelsea, I think they've got to have the energy level. And they got to utilize their talent. West Ham are talented, not nearly as talented as Chelsea.
Oh no, there's no comparison. I just think Moyes has them executing better as a squad than Lampard do right now.
And he's got I'm not sure the time difference, but also in terms of managerial experience. We talk about Arteta and Ole, Ancelotti. Different for him because he's got so much career.
This is more like this is Lampard against Moyes in terms of it's like the Ancelotti against Arteta in terms of pedigree versus 1-2 years in.
Exactly. So Lampard is still learning a lot on the job. I think he's definitely got it as a manager.
But it clearly has the talent.
And clearly a lot of talent. Still more talent to be added, I think. Rice is one of the guys I'm probably looking very closely at. But this is a must-win.
I think West Ham get the 3 is how I see this one going.
I think Chelsea might bounce back.
That will do it for us for week 14. All these weeks are running into one another right now. Jack, Conrad, 45. Please do like, subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments. Look for us on the Twitter at the 45. Take care now.